All right, so a couple of days ago, over on X.com, okay, or Twitter, as normal people refer to it, Elon Musk, the CEO, got himself into some pretty hot water over him basically coming out and agreeing with what I think is very clear anti-Semitism here. So I'm going to break down exactly what happened. All right, so it started off with this. You got Charles Weber up here who posted this video, and it's this dad and this son, and they're in a truck, and the dad finds out that his son was posting pro-Hitler stuff online. And they pull up, I guess, to like a Jewish school or something, and he says, you know, if you're going to post stuff like that, go and say it to their faces, right? Don't be a coward. And then they end up driving off. He doesn't actually get out of the truck and go and yell at these Jewish kids here or something, but that's basically the point. The point is, like, don't hide behind your internet personality. You know, if you're going to say something, say it with your chest and, you know, make it, I guess, like fully out there, right, for people to see. And obviously gives the indication of like, okay, if you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, maybe don't say it behind a computer screen. And so he posts this. He says, to the cowards hiding behind the anonymity of the internet and posting, quote, Hitler was right. You got something to say. Why don't you say it to our faces? And so then this guy here, who's just some random guy, okay, Breaking Bot, or the artist formerly known as Eric, he responds by saying, okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want the truth said to your face, there it is. And Elon Musk comes down here with a big whopper. You have said the actual truth. So let's think about this for a second here, right? The initial tweet was, if you are somebody out there who believes that Hitler was right, or you're somebody who's posting online that Hitler was right, say it to our faces, okay? Don't hide behind the internet, you know, mask. And so this guy responds, first of all, him even just up here saying, okay, again, it's kind of giving the implication here that he would fall under this class of people that believes that Hitler was right. Okay, so let's break it down. He says, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. And then he goes on to the second part. So there's sort of like two different levels of racism and anti-Semitism going on here. The first one up here, and tell me if you guys disagree with my reading of this. It's kind of like a convoluted way that he's saying this, but it seems like what the top portion here is saying is that Jewish people in the United States have been facilitating or directly participating in anti-white racism, okay? And now there's been a rise of anti-Semitism, and he's saying, why do you expect us to come to your aid when you were selling us out and siding with the hordes of minorities over white people, right? And so then he gets down here. Here's the second level. So that was the anti-Semitic bit up there. I mean, this is also anti-Semitic, but this is also just racist in a double way. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that they support, I think is what he meant to say there, flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. So again, sort of two things going on here. Number one, it seems like he's pushing the great replacement theory or some variation of that hordes of minorities are being brought in, imported into the United States of America to dilute the power of white Americans. So he obviously has an issue, I think, with minorities coming to the U.S. He wants it to be a white nation. Seems like that's pretty explicitly, you know, white ethno-nationalism or something like that. And so that's obviously part of the racism. But he's also saying that Jewish people are responsible for doing this. This is why I think a lot of people on the right constantly bring up George Soros, and they talk about the Great Replacement Theory. I don't think it's because they have a critique of the billionaire class. Okay, surprise, surprise. I think it's because he happens to be Jewish, right? I'm not a fan of George Soros, but it seems like kind of suspicious there that you guys, that's like the only billionaire you guys critique, right? Him and like Bill Gates and a couple others maybe. So that's part of this. And then they're also saying like the second level of racism here is that these hordes of minorities are all the anti-Semites, right? And I guess in this case, he's giving an indication that like all Palestinian people or all minorities who support Palestinian people must inherently be anti-Semitic. I mean, there's so much going on here, right? So obviously not the kind of tweet that the CEO of a platform like this, if he wants to maintain, you know, advertiser dollars coming in, not the kind of thing that you would agree with or, you know, even like the post, but he like straight up went below and said, you have said the actual truth, okay? So, you know, exactly, what you would expect from somebody like Elon Musk. Not the greatest look. We did have some critique here from Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. So this is the first thing that he posted. We're going to circle back around to the second thing here, but he said, at a time when anti-Semitism is exploding in America and surging around the world, it is indisputably dangerous to use one's influence to validate and promote anti-Semitic theories. Never is now. Okay, so this is what he critiqued Elon Musk for, pushing this anti-Semitic conspiracy, but I want to make something clear. The ADL and Jonathan Greenblatt, okay, which is the guy who basically went on MSNBC. I talked about this on my channel a while ago, about a month ago at this point, Jesus, where he was basically accusing Hamas of writing their script because guys like Ali Velchi and, Mehdi Hassan were showing the Palestinian perspective. So he's like, okay, you guys must be pro-Hamas, right? Or Hamas is writing the scripts. So that's, who this guy is. He also recently was caught on tape freaking out over the fact that young people disproportionately on like social media are more pro-Palestinian, and so he thinks that there is basically no difference, and this goes for the ADL, I think, at large, that there's no difference between having critiques of Israel or being pro-Palestinian versus being anti-Semitic. Those are all the same thing to them, right? You express solidarity with Palestinians, you must love Hamas, you must hate Jewish people. Okay, you have a critique of Israel, you must hate Jewish people, right? So there's this conflation that's been going on. We see it all the time, obviously. And the ADL does absolutely no favors towards the goal that I think is a good goal of actually trying to combat anti-Semitism when you're making that conflation, right? Because you're distracting away from real instances of anti-Semitism and, obviously trying to crush any dissent of the government of Israel, which is not the same thing as the Jewish people, believe it or not. I think it's actually incredibly anti-Semitic to try to conflate those things, acting as if all Jews around the world support every single thing that the government of Israel does. Okay, it's just factually inaccurate, not correct. And also, by the way, the real anti-Semitic threat in this country is not coming from people who support Palestinian liberation. The real anti-Semitic threat in this country does come from the far right. It comes from the Nazis. It comes from the fascists, right? Hitler, believe it or not, was not a Palestinian, okay? He was a white European guy. Okay, so that's where I think the real threat comes in terms of like, a violent rise in anti-Semitism. But then we had this, okay, and so this is really, honestly, I think almost like a bigger story than that, Elon Musk agreeing with that anti-Semitic tweet. But so here, he also agrees with Elon Musk. So we had the critique there, light critique of him, and then he agrees with Elon Musk. When Elon said, as I said earlier this week, decolonization and from the river to the sea and similar euphemisms necessarily imply genocide. Clear calls for extreme violence are against our terms of service and will result in suspension. So Elon Musk is now saying you will be suspended from Twitter if you post from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. This is what got Rashida Tlaib censured in the government just a couple of weeks ago, right? The phrase from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, it can have a lot of different meanings, right? I'm sure there are some Hamas guys who maybe use that phrase, and they are very anti-Semitic at the same time. But this phrase is decades and decades and decades old, and a vast, vast majority of the people who use this phrase, including me, I've used this phrase, I've been at protests where this phrase is chanted, the vast majority of the people who use this are just talking about Palestinians living free, okay, being free from apartheid, being free from occupation and ethnic cleansing and bombs dropping on their heads. That's what people mean by that phrase, overwhelmingly. And he's now saying, he's inserting his own politics, his own warped view of what this phrase means to justify silencing pro-Palestinian voices. This is your Mr. Free Speech guy over here. No, I don't think anybody who watches my channel thought that Elon Musk was actually pro-free speech. He's not. He's just wanting to amplify right-wing speech and silence left-wing speech. So we all knew that the entire time. But I mean, this is just like, it's so beyond the pale. You're going to get suspended for using the phrase decolonization because this guy personally believes that that means you want to what? Genocide all white people or genocide all Jewish people because you're against colonization. That's what we're talking about here. So, of course, Jonathan Greenblatt came out and he agreed with this. He says, this is an important and welcome move by Elon Musk. I appreciate this leadership in fighting hate. Okay, so again, this is the head of the ADL or the spokesperson of the ADL. Okay, Jonathan Greenblatt, he's the CEO. And he's saying basically banning people for saying from the river to the sea is a good step in fighting hate. So again, conflating support for Palestinian liberation with anti-Semitism. They're not the same thing. But, of course, he's going to come out and agree with this. I also thought it was kind of funny, interesting, that for this one, where he's agreeing with Elon Musk, he quote tweets him so that Elon Musk would be able to see this kind of a thing. But on this one, where he's critical of Elon Musk, this is like back to back, this, almost the same day, I'm pretty sure, right? This one was a day before, this one was a day after. So he quote tweets something on the one that he agrees with. On the one that he has a critique of Elon, he takes a screenshot and then posts it separately, so that I guess he's hoping maybe Elon doesn't see that and go buck wild on him, right? And so, of course, you have some consequences here for Elon Musk. For Twitter, companies that have now suspended their ads on this platform. This is, I think, just over the last couple of days here. Apple, IBM, Disney, Comcast, NBC, Universal, Lionsgate, Warner Bros, Paramount. So they're all fleeing the platform. Now, I mean, listen, there you go. Absolutely wild shit is happening on this platform. And then Elon Musk turns around after doing something like that and, agreeing on his own platform and boosting the profile of somebody who's just like openly posting anti-Semitic conspiracies. And he turns around and he wonders like why Twitter is in the gutter, why, advertisers are fleeing, why they're, probably going to go bankrupt at some point. I mean, it's not really a mystery here. You kind of just destroyed this entire platform. I mean, even just changing the name from Twitter to X should probably give people a perspective in terms of how well or how good Elon Musk is at conducting business. I mean, just obliterating billions of dollars in name recognition and brand value overnight because he likes the letter X, I guess. I mean, all of this is just so goddamn stupid. But I think the underlying messages there are important to focus on, right? Understanding what the ADL actually cares about. Clearly, I think their focus is more on silencing criticism of Israel and not actually on combating real anti-Semitism. That is a serious problem that should be addressed. So a couple different interesting things there, but things are not looking great right now for Elon and for his X social media platform.